A lot of crap I screenshotted last night. I want to talk about it. This I actually just screenshotted. You take a look. American survey, should NATO go to war for Ukraine? Granted, it's only 37,000 votes. 70% or 77% of Americans say, yes, the United States should go to war for Ukraine. People still don't get it. I'm going to explain to you the military strategy the United States is currently using when it comes to the Ukraine-Russian war and why the United States, it would be best to not intervene. And the question, all of this boils down to a very simple question. Do you think Putin is bluffing, and is it worth it to take the chance? So what I mean by that, if the United States intervenes, helps Ukraine, declares a no-fly zone, sends troops, it would be NATO doing it. It wouldn't just be the United States. If NATO intervenes, which, is part of the United States, they're in the same agreement. If they intervene, Putin has said those countries that intervene in Russia's war with Ukraine will face, nuclear options. There will be nuclear warheads potentially headed those country ways, and these leaders have to determine, is that a risk worth taking? Do you think Putin is bluffing? Because remember, having nukes, the best thing about having nukes isn't using them, it's bluffing them. It's saying we have these so you can't do anything. It's using them as a bargaining chip, as a threat. And all of these countries in Western Europe and in America, this really isn't an American thing. We're, on the other side of the world when it comes to this. This is really the Europe, NATO countries. Biden isn't doing a damn thing about this. He's going along with whatever the European NATO countries are saying. And quite honestly, we really shouldn't be intervening. This is why Trump argued the United States should not be in NATO. And what I would argue is the United States should make single alliances with every country, every major country in Europe. But that's a whole nother argument. The question boils down to, is saving Ukraine worth potentially starting World War III? And NATO has said it. Actually, many of the Western countries in Europe have said, no, it's not worth it. And then you've got all these people who, for some reason think that they say, oh, you're just going to let Putin walk all over you and take all this land. This is a massive hit for Russia. First of all, Ukraine is fighting very well. They're destroying a lot of Russian equipment, a lot of soldiers, a lot of Russian soldiers are being killed. I don't know if the numbers are correct, but, the numbers that the Ukrainians are reporting is crazy. They've tried to take the capital. They've been stonewalled. My thought process is the Russians are just waiting out the Ukraine forces, and they will end up they're going to take the capital. Russia is going to completely overwhelm with just manpower. They're a much bigger country. They have a lot more soldiers. They have a lot higher military budget. If Ukraine doesn't get help from NATO countries in the form of really manpower, you can have all the guns in the world, but if you don't have enough men to fire them, it's not going to matter. They will end up invading the capital. Right now, what Russia's goal is to get the capital with as few casualties as possible. So they're holding off their offensive right now. They're waiting out the Ukrainians. They're going to squeeze them in, and then they're going to invade Ukraine, the capital, Kiev. As you guys can see, the red spots is really where Russia has started their invasion into Ukraine. And really what they want is the capital, and that will be a huge blow for Ukraine. There has been a thought that the Ukraine government is actually going to move their government to the west more towards Poland. The last time I ever heard something about that, you guys remember back Operation Barbarossa in the early 40s. If Moscow had been taken, the Soviet Union and Stalin would have had to move their government east. That's the only time I've heard about it. This war it's crazy that this is happening in the 21st century. But like I was saying, it's just crazy that people think, oh, you're just letting Russia take this. Russia is taking a massive blow no matter what. You take a look at that poll. It says 77% of Americans are okay right now with America fighting back against Russia. So this gives the United States so much leverage. If you have the people on your side at any point, now is not the time because you don't want to start World War III, but at any point, if you want to launch an offensive against Russia, if you want to go against their military, the American people right now support it 100% because Russia is shown as the enemy. There wasn't even an attempt by Putin to drum up some sort of terrorist plot by the Ukraine, stage something in Moscow, stage some terrorist event, blame it on the Ukrainians. He just invaded and said he wants to denazify it, which everyone thinks it's ridiculous. He just wants more land. He wants more influence in the West. This is going to significantly weaken Russia. Now let's get to some other screenshots I have. Ukrainian President Zelensky turns down U.S. request to evacuate Kiev, saying, "I need ammunition, not a ride." That is badass, I'm not gonna lie. Facebook just banned Russian state media from running ads or monetizing on Meta platforms anywhere in the world. That doesn't matter. They've already lost the public perception battle. Them running ads isn't going to do anything. Breaking, President Biden has blocked Russian access to Disney Plus. Huge. it's just a joke. Ukraine's internet backbone provider suffering major disruption. Cause is unknown. Ukrainian TV is broadcasting instructions for making do-it-yourself Molotov cocktails. The fact that this is being tweeted out, oh my God. This is crazy. This one is crazy. This is why war in the 21st century. I'm going to read this right now. A group of open source intelligent researchers have taken to Tinder to speak with Russian soldiers and separatists to gain intelligence posing as women. The crazy world of social media that during a war, soldiers are on Tinder giving away information about their units and location in the hope to get laid. Using horniness against soldiers using Tinder as a weapon. Tinder is becoming a weapon. This is unbelievable. And then this was one, Defiant L's, unbelievable. The dude got banned, he came back, and this was a banger. No civilian needs an AR-15 regardless of whatever mental gymnastics you do. You are a very special breed of stupid. That was tweeted out by this alt-left group, just completely alt-left group, I think. And then this is a 6-year difference. 6 years later, breaking, Ukraine's minister announces 10,000 automatic rifles have been handed out to the civilians of Kiev as they prepare to fight tooth and nail to defend their homes against Putin invasion. Retweet if you stand with the Ukrainian people. So obviously their thought process is, oh, if they invade America, the government's going to give us all the guns. That's putting a lot of trust in the government. Breaking, the Russian Foreign Ministry warns that if Finland or Sweden join NATO, they would face serious military and political consequences. NATO has far too many countries as it is for Finland and Sweden to be joining, number one. Number two, I highly doubt Russia wants to start a campaign in Finland. You take a look, it was a while ago, but go back to World War II. Against the USSR, Finland completely stonewalled the Soviet Union back in World War II. So I have a lot of faith in Finland holding their ground if something like that were to break out. Putin lost his bargaining power when he invaded Ukraine. Bring Finland and Sweden into NATO regardless of his threats. Now, there's far too many countries in NATO as it is. Finland can defend. They can defend for themselves. We saw it was a while ago, but Russia has a weaker army than they did during World War II. The thing with Russia is, you take a look at the way their government is set up, it discourages innovation. So a lot of their equipment that they have is not military advanced to the 21st century. Like the United States, like China, and let's talk about China, actually. It's unbelievable. I've got some stuff on China. UN Council voting on condemning Russia. So the countries that say yes, all the countries you accept. Russia says no, shocker, right? And then abstent, which is basically another form of saying no. That's what it is. China, India, United Arab Emirates, whatever. India was surprising, but guys, China, I think if there's one thing, there's actually two things that I want to talk about. But the one thing that, American people need to understand, in any other situation in world history, right now, America would be gearing up and ready to declare war on China. And I say that because China has said publicly that they want to pass the United States as the number one superpower by 2048 or 2050, whatever. Like, whenever there's a rising power in history, The power that's on top wants to stay on top, so they go to war with the power that's rising to take that power back down at any other point in history. Now, obviously, we're in a completely different age with nuclear bombs where that's probably not visible. But this whole idea where everyone is focused on Russia, the American people have to understand the number one enemy is China. They've publicly stated they want to pass the United States publicly. And, we understand Russia is doing something right now that a lot of Americans do not agree with, right? A lot of people invading Ukraine over basically nothing. As the bigger country, they're causing a lot of violence, a lot of death that is unneeded and unwanted. But you have to understand, China is the biggest threat. And of course, China loves what Russia is doing right now. Absolutely love any possible thing you can do to weaken NATO, to weaken the United States, to make the United States turn their attention to Russia and not China is, they love it. They will supply Russia with information. They will supply Russia with potential, equipment. So this whole thing, the United States and China, that's public enemy number one. It is. When China publicly says, yeah, we're going to pass the United States by 2050, that's the issue. And at any other point in history, if another power says that, the power that's in first place right now, which we're in first place. Now, again, you can talk about our human rights, things like that, where we spend our money. But the bottom line is we are the biggest power in the world right now. That is not debatable. China wants to become the biggest power. Right now, they're number two. They're going through a rearmament process. They're upping their military budget considerably. They're not releasing any, or they don't have to, I guess, release any, sort of numbers on how much they're actually spending on military, the type of nukes they're developing, the technology. That's why China's way more scary than Russia. They're innovating better with their technology, with their military technology. We're seeing Russia. A lot of it is perception, but people thinking Russia is struggling to take Ukraine, and I think they, again, I've never seen something like this happen. I don't know if Russia is just waiting or if they're actually really meeting more resistance than they expected, because I've never seen an invasion like this in living. So what am I supposed to say? Like, oh yeah, I've seen this before, they're just waiting, whatever. People are saying Ukraine's doing a great job. Ukraine army is reporting they're shooting down, they've killed over 4,000 Russian soldiers. I don't know how accurate that number is. I don't think anyone does. But the point of it is, China is the major number one enemy, and the United States needs to stay out of this Ukraine conflict. It is going to make Russia look so bad. People overestimate the world power that Russia has. They can take Ukraine all they want. Putin is not stupid enough to go into a NATO country. The idea that Sweden and Finland are going to join NATO. There's far too many countries in NATO as it is. There's far too many countries. It's not going to happen. But, I don't even think Russia is going to try and invade Finland if they're struggling this much with the Ukraine. I think it's more of a multi-step, multi-decade process for Putin. But there's been reports that a lot of people in Russia don't like Putin. I don't know how real those are. You'll see on Twitter, like, Russians marching against the Russian government. We really have no way to gauge how many Russians are actually against this war. They won't survey any of them. And while you see a bunch of people marching in Moscow or wherever, a lot of Russian civilians marching and saying this war is ridiculous, we don't know if that's really, 10% of them believe, 30% of them believe, or the majority believe. We don't know. We'll never know. Because they're not going to have any polls or anything like that. It's just a bunch of people marching. It could be the vocal majority, or it could be the, vocal minority. Just depends on that. So that's an update, guys. I feel Russians trying to wait out Ukraine right now to take the capital, and then they'll go from there. And then what I expect, they'll take the capital, and then they'll secure the eastern side, which obviously is going to be the easier side to secure on the border with Russia. So that's what I expect to happen in the coming days. We will see. Right now, we're getting reports Ukraine is fighting them off very well. Again, I've got nothing to compare that to, but that is the latest on the war. As you guys can see, the clashes right now in Kiev, the capital of Ukraine, really right on the capital. They said they defended it last night. I'm about 7 hours behind Kiev. Personally, I'm Eastern Standard Time. New York, United States Eastern Standard Time. So I'm about 7 hours behind Kiev. I'm about 8 hours behind Moscow, or maybe 9. I don't know. But you guys can just see some maps. They attacked Chernobyl. They're going into those soldiers are going to get radiation poisoning from doing that. But you guys can just see the overall maps here on the attack as we track this. Guys, make sure you're following me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description. I'm, of course, the Depressed Ginger. Thank you for watching.